In early September of 2022, the B-29 24 Squadron of the Commemorative Air Force paid a visit to Arnold Palmer Regional Airport in Latrobe, Pennsylvania to display their prized Second World War aircraft. The unit traces its roots back to the 1960s, when preservation is spearheaded by World War II, Korean, and Vietnam War veteran Vic Agaver seeking to preserve a operating superfortress. The B-29 bomber holds a special place in world history for being the type of aircraft to drop the atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending World War II. In addition, the B-29 revolutionized the design of military aircraft. Its sleek wing pattern enabled the United States Air Force to be able to reach targets up to 3,000 miles in distance, at an elevation of over 33,000 feet in the air. Although 4,000 B-29s were produced, only a handful have survived. Finding an operating B-29 available for the Commemorative Air Force was impossible. But in 1971, Agaver's team found a group of derelict B-29s destined for missile practice on a base in California. Much discourse between the preservationists and federal forces followed before one B-29 was allowed to be set aside for restoration. That plane was Fifi. Fifi was built in 1944 and served in a primarily administrative role throughout the Pacific theater. This spared her from being damaged in the field and a prime candidate for preservation. It only took 9 weeks for the preservation team to prep the plane for a ferry flight of over 1,000 miles to the Commemorative Air Force's headquarters. There, a multi-year restoration brought Fifi to the standards needed to begin her career in historical barnstorming. A second, even more extensive restoration in the late 2000s replaced the 4 powerful engines to keep Fifi flying to this present time. She is one of only 2 B-29s able to take flight. While I have an interest in military history, I must admit my knowledge on aviation's ties is meek. Seeing the massive B-29 on the tarmac, I was expecting a roomy interior. To my surprise, though, the only area with room for humans is the cockpit. An array of controls cover every inch of space on the inside of the fuselage. A long tunnel extends the length of the plane to one of the gunner's positions. I was also surprised to discover several of Fifi's guns are computer operated. By no means are we talking computers used to type the script for this video, but nevertheless, remote-controlled machine gun turrets are implemented throughout the plane. All the state-of-the-art technology that allowed Fifi and other B-29s to take flight unnerved the test crews initially assigned to take the B-29 for its demonstration flight. It took a small team of the Women Air Service pilots to conduct trial runs with the B-29 before any of the male bomber teams were willing to take the plane into action. The success of the preservation of Fifi spurred the welcoming of another plane, creating a small squadron. Diamond Lil is one of only 2 B-24 Liberators still in flight. She was the 25th plane of her type to be constructed, a fleet that would eventually include over 18,000. Her original designs of being a heavy bomber for the British Air Ministry came to a screeching halt after an accident in testing damaged the bombing bay. The Consolidated Aircraft Company repurposed her as a prototype of crew and equipment transport that became known as the C-87 Liberator Express. From 1942 through the end of the war, Diamond Lil made regular test flights to tweak the designs of the Expresses, as well as moving valuable personnel and cargo between bomber production facilities. Her post-war service is even more deviant from her initial purpose, as Diamond Lil was outfitted for service as a luxury aircraft to transport executives of 2 different companies. In 1968, Diamond Lil was transferred to the Commemorative Air Force, and as for much of her career in historical barnstorming has been attached to Fifi. Stepping inside, I saw what I was more expecting when I visualized a bomber in the Second World War. Unlike the B-29, most bombers did not have a pressurized cabin. As such, the 10-man crews that typically operated Liberators had to wear bulky flak jackets and oxygen masks in order to safely operate exposed to the thin atmosphere. It's next to impossible imagining how men were able to maneuver in cramped corners with such cumbersome clothing on while in the middle of flight, with constant threat from enemy planes and flak guns on the ground. This is why the men and women who make up different squadrons in the Commemorative Air Force are involved. Preserving aircraft like Fifi and Diamond Lil allow people from current generations like myself to understand the feats the brave people had to achieve in order to successfully operate these machines. Without the B-24, the Allied forces would not have been able to take the war back to Germany. And without the B-29, the Second World War may never have ended when it did in the Pacific. At present, the B-29-24 Squadron of the Commemorative Air Force has over 300 members that assist in keeping Fifi and Diamond Lil in the air. Be sure to follow their schedule of tours to see if they are paying a visit to an airport near you. I recommend taking a day to get the chance to see these impressive pieces of our history in person.